Welcome to the Wisory Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wadler, founder of the Wisory, and this is our weekly Wise in 5, where we ask Fortune 1000 business leaders and esteemed professors 5 questions to provide insights to help grow your business and career. I am honored to host this week's guest, Parrish Arturi, for this week's Wise in 5. Parrish is a recognized digital product and marketing leader in the financial services space, having led the digital transformation and customer experience practices at Fidelity, TIAA, and Wells Fargo. I know you'll enjoy Parrish's perspective and wisdom around teams, AI, and customer-centric approaches that he has used to great success throughout his incredible career. Hi, Parrish. It's great to see you.
Hey, Jason, great to see you as well.
Thank you. And thanks for joining for the Wise in 5. I'm thrilled to have you and go through this. And also, I'm thrilled that you're going to be part of the roundtable we're going to do in a couple of weeks around product development in the age of AI. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Me too. So before we dive into the 5 questions, would you mind just giving a little bit of your background? I mean, you have this amazing background in CX and UX and product development. Would you just share a little bit with the folks that are watching and listening?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, I've spent over 30 years in financial services in a variety of digital and client experience roles at major brands like Wachovia, Fidelity, TIAA. You know, how I often describe is that I love being at this intersection of marketing, sales, operations, technology, client experience. It kind of, you know, floated my boat when I first got exposed to it. And then I've always been on the business side where I've been able to be close to customers, the people that serve them, and really to see the business outcomes associated with it. It's over the course of my career that led me to focus on digital and CX transformation, where I had the opportunity to work with great people across many different functional areas to drive growth and scale and innovation across both B2C and B2B domains in banking, investing, and retirement services. And now I'm focused on sharing my experience to help others solve problems, grow their businesses, and achieve success.
That's wonderful. And that's why we're so thrilled to have you as an advisor on the Wisery. So thank you. So my first question, which I ask all of our guests, is where do you find inspiration in daily life?
Yeah, this is a great question, by the way. And where I find daily inspiration is really in practices of gratitude, which I started a few years ago. I'm still trying to get better at, but I do that after I walk the dogs first thing in the morning, and then I do some reflection. And that gratitude could be in nature, could be beautiful morning, could be a crisp winter day, could be in relationships, professional or personal, it could be health, it could be helping others to achieve their best or help solve problems. But every day is a gift in some way, shape, or form, and really deserves to be treated as such. And so it's certainly not always easy, depending on what's going on in your life, because we're all human after all. But starting with that really inspires me to do more and get better for myself and others. And I have to thank my wife, who's the one that introduced me to it, and I'm grateful for her too.
Well, I think that is amazing and so inspirational. And as someone who focuses on experience, I think that's a great way to channel experience just in daily life. So you've lived through the rise of online banking, mobile, digital, self-service, and now AI. What feels different today about this technology
Yeah.
wave, and I guess what feels exactly the same?
Yeah, I'll probably start there because it's really best framed and what feels similar in looking at how things are evolving, even though they're evolving quite rapidly. But being at the early stages, being able to see the promise of the possibilities and being able to translate that into what it can mean from business outcome. Storytelling is really important to help people understand what the future could look like. And alongside that comes, having conviction and dealing with skeptics about what can happen. There's certainly a lot of AI skeptics right now, but I can even remember in my early days having a bank CIO tell me that the internet was a fad, and why would they want to invest? So, you need to pair that with strong conviction and a strong case for why to invest. And then the other thing that's similar are the cycles of intense learning, particularly at the outset, and sometimes failure, candidly, and being able to channel that into how do you take things to the next level. And then, when I look at like a more macro level, like the phase of the evolution, like where we are now, really over the past couple of years is, we in the internet age, we talked about picks and shovels, people like Cisco, et cetera, the ones that built the infrastructure and capital spending, and it's a massive investment that people need to make. And alongside that is also, some naturally comes some hype, predictions and hyperbole. Certainly today, it's about what it could be, or the dark side of AI at this time. And then you also see the concentration in big players. So we see all the big model players, and then Google, Microsoft, et cetera, that are investing heavily. SpaceX. And the other thing that feels familiar is enterprises rushing to make sure they have an AI strategy, even though maybe they don't really need an AI strategy, but everybody needs to have an AI strategy. And that's accompanied by intense, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Hmm.
And of course, at the same time, you see consultants building programs and practices to advise firms on how to deploy AI. And now we're starting to see the gap between, saying that you're using the new technology, the cost of the investments. People now seeing that we're using too much AI or not using it in a thoughtful manner, and understanding what the actual ROI is. So those are the things that all feel similar to where we've been. But what's different this time, I think, is the pace of change. So
Yes.
the ability to compress time to value without as many people, and the use of brute force. So before, we might lock people in a room for a week to dive deep on a problem and come up with like a low res prototype to type. Well, now you can do that in a matter of minutes. But so that really is going from this notion of assisting or doing the work to having the AI do the work for you. So, the past ways, like mobile might have provided you tools to be more efficient, and you needed people with very specific skills like mobile app development. Well, you don't
Hmm.
need that anymore now. And it doesn't just boost your productivity. It reasons, it can make decisions, and it can execute the work on your behalf. Doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a human in the loop, but it just changes the nature of that. And the part of that changing nature is like this disruption of cognitive cognitive thinking, which is, you know, before we might have transformed how we store information or how we connect with others or how we communicate. Like, so
So to everything you just shared, Parrish, I guess my question is, so what has AI changed about product development that most people or teams have not recognized yet?
yeah, the one thing that I thought about is, a lot of people think that AI and product development, it's going to enable you to just ship much more stuff. And I think the nuance is that it's not about doing more things; it's about doing the right things intentionally better. So not just about shipping features, but shipping the features that customers love with less friction in the process. That nuance, I think, is important. And we as product managers want to do as much as we possibly can, or probably ship as much as we can. But it's really about impact over quantity, sheer quantity.
Hmm.
That impact can come from the application of AI in the process and the frameworks that you're using.
I think that's exactly right. And so, I mean, as kind of a partner question to that is, so what human skills do you see becoming even more important as AI continues to grow in usefulness?
Sure. I mean, there are three that, right off the top of my head that I think about. So one is collaboration, another is communication, and then the third is curiosity. So these are really important human skills to have. And I think about collaboration because, roles will become blurring across teams. Teams will have to work incredibly well together, even though you may have fewer people. Like, those folks have to work really close together and
Hmm.
also have to understand the power of how they're applying AI and how they're utilizing it. The second around communication, so being able to communicate and to do so with clarity and real intention, and the obsession about customers, and so how you communicate the story and what you're doing on behalf of customers and the outcomes you're driving. And then the curiosity is something that kind of came to mind earlier this year. I was guest lecturing at a class on digital marketing and revenue operations, and one of the things I shared with the class was ABC, which isn't always be closing; it's actually always be curious, and it's a real means to differentiate yourself, whether it's your team being curious or you as an individual. I think that those skills are going to be really important as the AI age evolves.
I could not agree more. And I think, I teach entrepreneurship at Indiana University.
Mhm.
And whenever we talk about AI and the skills that are going to be needed, curiosity always comes up as
Mhm.
one of those. We have curiosity, collaboration, and critical thinking,
Yeah,
as the three C's that we talk
I
about.
love it.
So pretty much right on. So in 5 years, right? Let's get our crystal ball out. In 5 years, what will separate the truly great product teams from those that are just merely average?
Sure, sure. Well, and by the way, I do have a crystal ball,
There we go.
but it's remarkably murky on this subject,
As it should be,
as
right?
it should be. I had a strategy role at one point, and my team gave me that, but it doesn't work.
That's terrific.
Anyway, as if we look ahead, I think in 5 years, I touched a little bit about the willingness to blur roles. I'm a,
Hmm.
a big fan of growth hacking and using cross functional disciplines to solve problems. But now with AI, teams could do multiple things from strategy to design to prototyping to coding and analytics. And, intentional org design or maybe even deconstruction. I think it's going to challenge the way that historically people have functionally set things up. But what's going to be really important is shared values and aligned goals will matter more than ever, to unlock value because also that pace is so quick. And then, the other thing that's going to be different, I think in regulated industries, which obviously I have a lot of experience in, is that
Hmm.
being able to integrate and rethink the steps required to go to market, which can sometimes be the long pole in execution. Like they're probably still a long pole in execution today, whether that's like legal risk or compliance or different controls. So I think that the ability to think ahead to those and
Hmm.
understand how to optimize them and compress them as well will be really important.
Yep. So this may be an unfair question, but I have to ask it. So if you were starting a company today, right, and AI was available from day one, right? You didn't have all the legacy stuff that we're talking about. How would you build it differently? Like how would you approach this in a different way than trying to retrofit AI into some things that are already built, processes, platform, whatever it may
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. I think it probably starts with just having a different architecture or radically different architecture. So it's about the data architecture and having things be modular and not necessarily hooked into one model that you're using or one system. So being able to be much more kind of open source
Hmm.
than uh, than legacy firms have been in the past. Having those learning loops, self-improving learning loops in some cases with AI, in some cases with AI generating it, but humans in the loop reviewing it. And then, uh, a second component pillar is really around lean operations. So,
Yeah.
we've talked about lean for a long time, but typically it's about process improvement. But this now really helps you think about scaling the business without having to add people and how to do that thoughtfully and have, the autonomous support that you need instead of hiring, three or four support agents. You just have one AI agent that is handling everything for you. And then it changes the work that somebody might do that is responsible for that particular
Yeah.
product or that digital experience.
Are there certain roles that you would say we have these roles today as people, and those roles may be more done through technology, through AI,
Yeah.
and they become duplicative in some manner.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're duplicative or if AI helps unlock a different level of insight. So it could be in the ideation phase, or it could be in research and
Hmm.
testing, certainly in design, certainly in product management, like figuring out specs of the product, problems to solve. How do you understand what the go to market strategy is? So I think all roles will be touched in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think you're right, and
Yeah.
I don't want to like give away too much because we've already started to plan what our roundtable is going to be, and the rich conversation that's going to come out of that is just going to be amazing. Well, and Parrish, you went through the 5 questions. We actually did 6 questions, so we had
Yeah.
an extra question, and you passed with
I
flying
always like to
colors. So
overachieve.
thank you,
Yes. Thank
thank you. But I do have a bonus question for you. So as businesses and leaders start to engage you on the Wisery, what questions should they really be coming to you with? What are you best positioned to help them answer?
Yeah, I think I can help answer questions about how, and not even just specific to AI, but how do you think about creating a roadmap for digital transformation or client experience transformation, inclusive of AI, of course, in these days? What are the right kind of organizational levers to pull, and what are best practices that have been applied across industries that can help people take their aspirations around digital transformation or client experience to the next level? And then, questions like a really important question that I always ask is, well, what customer problems are we trying to solve, and to orient around those, and then to understand context about, what's happened in the past or what are the aspirations for the future. So those would just be a couple things off the top.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait for teams and leaders to engage with you. Thank you so much for making the time to answer these questions, to be an advisor on the Wisery, and to participate in the product development roundtable we're going to be having in a few weeks. So thank you for all of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Well, same. All
Yeah.
the best. Thanks, Parrish.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Wise in 5. Visit thewisery.com to learn more about Parrish and book time with him or any one of our acclaimed advisors, only at the Wisery.